sir.
Good, you ready to go? Ready or not? Honestly, not really. Let's see. Worked out just like we planned it.
Question. The recommendation for the Seaport, is that just, she's the only person who decided she would want to be on C, or that's just a recommendation?
I'm sorry, sis.
Anybody can be nominated.
You wasn't C,
It's
that
up
was
to
just a
y'all.
Qualifications is the other thing within,
Look at here.
not the city limits, but within the ETJ.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Sweetwater City Council to order and ask Assistant Chief Corey Stroman to do the invocation this morning, and Councilman Baker's going to lead us in pledges.
If you'll pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer this morning, and we just thank you so much for the blessings that you give our community. Thank you for the rain that you've poured out on us in the recent past, and Lord, if it's in your will, we would pray for much, much more. We thank you for the life that's always evident in spring and the beautiful just landscape that we have, and thank you that we're able to live in this area. We're able to just serve and worship you, and thank you for our leaders here today that are gathering together, and just pray that you would be with this meeting today, that you would guide the discussion, guide the decisions. We lift these leaders up to you, that they would just continue to serve you and stay in your will. And it's these things pray in your name, Lord. Amen.
You want me to pledge? Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we'll now move to item 4, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of minutes for meeting held on April 8th.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, item 5 calls for public input. If anyone would like to speak.
For the record, I'm Larry May, private citizen.
Council member for 34 years.
Mr. Mayor, Jim, I just wanted to say thank you for your service to this city for these many years. And, you know, it was a privilege and a pleasure to have served alongside you for many years. The city owes you a gratitude, a debt for your service, and we thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vela, as you start your new life in Odessa, we say thank you for having served as our city manager for the last several years, and we wish you very well in Odessa. I go out there occasionally, and I appreciate what you've done for the city. And my friend, Mr. Peak, I challenge you to always do what's right for the city, to study the issues and lead the city in a new direction. And we thank you for your service. And I want to thank the rest of you up on the dais, thank you for your service. I know takes a lot of time to study everything, to make the meetings, and we appreciate your service. Thank you, council.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else want to speak? We will now move to item 6A. Samantha Morrow, City Attorney, will administer the oath of office to Dr. Jared Peak, Mayor, Mr. Ricky Castro, Council Member, District 3, and John McPherson, City Council Member, District 1.
Okay, swear everyone in together. So you'll say your own name, of course, at the appropriate prompting, and say your oath, the office you're taking at the appropriate time. So swear
I,
in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
In the name and authority of the state of Texas.
I
John McPherson.
do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will execute the duties of the office of mayor.
Councilman Castro.
Councilmember Precinct 1
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will do the best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend
And do the best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state,
the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I want to take a moment to recognize the public service of Mayor McKenzie. He's been on this council for 19 years and has done a great service to this community. He's been an excellent leader on the council, an excellent leader for the city of Sweetwater and our community. Has really gotten a lot done in his time here, his nearly 2 decades serving on the council. The majority of that is mayor. And like Mr. May said, we all benefited from his leadership and his vision. So Mayor, I wanted to take this time to present this plaque on behalf of the citizens of the city of Sweetwater in appreciation of 19 years of professional and dedicated service to the Sweetwater City Council, presented May 2025.
Thanks, sir. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 6B, which is to discuss and consider an act upon approving a resolution regarding the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Sweetwater and prescribing the term thereof. Does the council have any questions?
Make a motion to nominate Mr. McPherson.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Motion is approved, and the council member McPherson will be the mayor pro tem for the coming year. Now move on to item 6B, which is to discuss and consider an act upon approval of a mid-year agreement upon procedures report for the period ending March 31st, 2025, as prepared by Catherine Wilkes, CPA. And I hear from Kathy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
morning.
You have before you the report, which is the various applied upon procedures that were conducted. You can see on the report that there were 6 different areas that we tested and performed. The details, all the procedures are listed there for you. And as you can see, after each area, there were no exceptions found as a result of the procedures. So that, again, after each section details the procedures, we didn't have any exceptions this year, but I'll be happy to answer any questions on any of those details.
Any question?
All right, thank you.
I move we approve the mid-year report.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, please say aye. And motion carries. Item 6B, which is to enter into a public hearing and act upon the ordinance approving abandonment of city streets and alley right-of-ways described as part of Florida Avenue from the east right-of-way of Sam Houston Street, Southside addition to the alley right-of-way in Block 51, and part of Bell Street from the south right-of-way of Interstate 20, Southside addition, and a portion of the north right-of-way of Florida Avenue, part of Peace Street from the south right-of-way of Interstate 20, Southside addition, and a portion of the north right-of-way of Florida Avenue, and all alley rights-of-way in Block 43 and 46, and portions of the alley right-of-way in Blocks 44 to 45, Southside addition of Sweetwater. Do I have a motion to enter into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now into public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item? If not, do I have a motion to close public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are now back in regular session. Or sorry, pardon me, we closed the public hearing. Do I have a motion approving the ordinance for the abandonment of streets and alley right-of-ways as previously described?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the motion carries. I'll now read the ordinance into the records. An ordinance determining the necessity of vacating the following streets and alley right-of-ways as described. Bear with me while I read this again. Part of Florida Avenue from the east right-of-way of Sam Houston Street, Southside addition of Sweetwater addition recorded in Plat Cabinet B, Slide 32B, Plat Records, Nolan County, Texas, to the alley right-of-way in Block 51, and part of Bell Street from the south right-of-way of Interstate 20, Southside addition of Sweetwater addition recorded in Plat Cabinet B, Plat Cabinet Slide 32B, Plat Records, Nolan County, Texas, and a portion of the north right-of-way of Florida Avenue, and part of Peace Street from the south right-of-way of Interstate 20, Southside addition of Sweetwater addition recorded in Plat Cabinet Slide 32B, Plat Records, Nolan County, Texas, and a portion of the north right-of-way of Florida Avenue, and all alley rights-of-way in Blocks 43 and 46, and portions of the alleyways in Blocks 44 and 45, Southside addition of Sweetwater addition recording in Plat Cabinet Slide 32B, Plat Records, Nolan County, Texas. Item 6C, now enter into a public hearing and act upon approving an ordinance to amend the City of Sweetwater Code of Ordinances by adding Code Enforcement Authority section into Chapter 1, General Provisions of the Code of Ordinances. Do I have a motion to open public hearing?
Motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we are now in public hearing. Does anyone like to make any comments during this section of public hearing? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and second to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance to amend the City of Sweetwater Code of Ordinances by adding Code Enforcement Authority section to Chapter 1, General Provisions of the Code of Ordinances?
Make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will now read the ordinance into the record. An ordinance of the City of Sweetwater, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, General Provisions by adding Section 111 entitled Code Enforcement Authority and change the numbering of the remainder of the chapter. Item 6F. We will now discuss and consider and act upon an order declaring structure on described property within the City of Sweetwater to be dilapidated and or deteriorated and unfit for human habitation so as to require repair, rehabilitation, or demolition, providing a time with which to rehabilitate, repair, or demolish such structure, and providing for the repair, rehabilitation, or demolition, and removal, which requires a public hearing for the following property. At this time, Samantha Morrow, City Attorney, will swear in Bester Munoz-Vadzi, Director of Planning and Development Services, and Robert Soto, Code Enforcement Officer, for their testimony regarding the following property in the public hearing.
Do you both solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in the matter pending before the city council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. So do I have a motion to open a public hearing for property 112 and 110 West Broadway Avenue?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to open public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
So as we know, this building has been vacant for a long time, and there's not been any maintenance on the building, to a point where at some point the bricks started falling to the alley, and the city had to go in and secure that side so that way it would not be a safety issue for the public. And the city staff took the necessary legal procedures in sending letter to the record of owner of the property to inform them about the condition of the building. And the letter was returned. We also wrote a 10-day letter that informs them that we'll be taking this case to City Council for recommending for approval, demolition of the building. And that letter also was returned. So we have no one that is responding to the correspondences concerning this building. And as you can see, that is the roof of the building. So it's dilapidated, and staff is requesting that City Council approve our recommendation to get this building demolished for public safety, welfare, and health.
Anyone else wish to speak? Do we have any questions of staff?
The children of the woman that used to own that, they haven't responded at all to any of your calls or messages?
No, they haven't. And Robert can testify that he went and saw the daughter who works somewhere in this city in person before we even wrote the letters, and they were not interested in anything concerning this building.
Do we have an appreciation for how demolition of this building is going to impact the building immediately to the west, as they share a common wall? Do we have any appreciation of that yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Is anyone else that wish to speak? Okay, thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That public hearing is closed. Do I hear a motion for declaration of dilapidation and or deterioration and unfit for human habitation in order repair, rehabilitation, or demolition of 112 and 110 West Broadway Avenue within 35 days from the date of order?
Make a motion for declaration of dilapidation.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Now move on to item 6G, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing funding for an incentive agreement between Seed MDD and Farmhouse Sweetwater LLC for the renovation of the village apartments. Mr. Whitburn.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Filling in for Misha this morning. She's on maternity leave. So yeah, this incentive agreement was approved by the CWD Board of Directors on April 14th. It's an incentive to remodel the 36 units located at Village Apartments, these are all two-bed, two-bath apartments, and this project goes hand in hand with our housing initiatives that were mentioned in our 2017 housing study. Any questions?
Thank you. Let's take a look. Okay. Ask for a motion from the council to approve this funding.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where this company or the people that are redoing this one, where are they from?
They're out of Salina, Texas.
Salina, Texas. And they have the same restrictions as the first one, where you're gonna look at all of the
Yes, ma'am.
apartments and
Yes.
the HVACs and all of the things?
Yes, ma'am. We are utilizing the exact same incentive that we've used on all of our other apartment complexes. The only thing that changes it is the number of units. We price it on a per unit basis, so we give a certain amount for a 2-bedroom and a certain amount for a 1-bedroom, and that stays the same across any of these complexes.
Do they have a time frame on when they're gonna start and how long it'll take them to finish?
They're going to start as soon as they own the property. They're set to close sometime this week or next week, and it's empty as it sits right now, and so they are heavily incentivized to get it done as quickly as they can. But from what they've told us, they're going to start on the outside first and basically make the curb appeal look better, and then they're going to just start tackling each of the units on the interior. And could take. He's hoping about a year, but you never know with these kinds of projects as with delays and those kinds of things. So
How many people are currently living there?
it's empty.
It's empty.
Yes, sir. Yeah. As part of the change in with the sale of the portfolio, all of those properties were empty before they switched over.
Any further questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we authorize funding for the incentive agreement between Seed MDD and Farmhouse Sweetwater LLC.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Continuing on, item 6H, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing additional funding from Seed MDD for the replacement of 2 pedestrian bridges and the repair of one in Newman Park as part of the walking trail improvements.
So late last fall, our board of directors approved amount of funding to bridge the gap in the amount that was needed from the donation that came from Nolan County Foundation. But at the time, it was decided that on the city side that the bridges were not going to be looked at just yet, and were going to be looked at in later time. When our board heard that, they decided that they wanted to step in and kind of bridge that gap and help get it completed and look as nice as it can. So our board approved funding. We went out with the help of EHT, went out for RFP and went through that process to kind of get an amount of what our board was going to need to fund, and so that's what we're coming to you today to request approval of funding. This funding was approved on April 14th by our board. Any questions? And these and Sage will kind of give you a little bit more background on it on the next item, but the plan right now is to completely demolish and replace 2 of the walking trail bridges. They're just to a point where they're beyond repair. They'll be made ADA accessible. And then there's one bridge it's a rock arc bridge, and that one will stay, and we'll just have some significant repairs to make it ADA accessible as well.
Any further questions? I hear a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize funding for the pedestrian bridges and repair of the third. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item 6I, which is to make a motion to consider taking this item off the table that was tabled at the April 8th, 2025 City Council meeting, and to discuss, consider, and act upon approval to award a construction contract for the Newman Bridge pedestrian park improvements to V&J Holdings. Do I have a motion to take this from the table?
Make a motion to remove it from the table.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That passes. This motion is now before the council. Do we have any questions for Sage? Go ahead. If you have anything to share with us.
Good morning, everyone. Sage
morning.
Diller with EHT. Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you.
You seem very comfortable up there, like you've been there before. So, okay. So this project is for the pedestrian bridges. We did issue out drawings and RFP and received. If you look there in your packet, you should see the bid tabulation. Listing there the bids received, and I was just making sure that I'm on the right agenda item. So we are looking at awarding this contract. There were 3 bids received. The bid tabulation is there in your packet, and you will see that the way that the project was advertised and the proposals received were for 3 different portions of work, which is demolition, supply of the bridges, and then installation. And as Ethan alluded to, there's been some discussions about just making repair to one of the rock bridges. And so what we need to do at this point is go ahead and award the proposals as received, which is for all 3. And what we will do then is follow up with a construction change order, taking out demolition of the rock bridge, and then we will use we will have the modification of the rock bridge in the current contract of the sidewalk and construction job that's out there ongoing now. So those will be separate items in the future. But to move forward with these proposals as received, we recommend awarding the contract to D&J Holdings in the amount of $228,970.97, knowing that future construction change orders will be brought before council to reduce that contract. And for reference, this contractor has installed similar bridges. The golf course there in Abilene, which used to be Diamondback Golf Course, now is Live Oak Golf Course. There's 2 golf cart bridges they installed there. Very nice looking bridges. The one that are proposed for the pedestrian bridges are a little different, but will be very nice and fit in the park nicely. So that is our recommendation at this time. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sage. I ask for a motion from the council to award the construction contract for the Newman Park pedestrian bridges to D&J Holdings. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Now move on to item 6J, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon awarding a construction contract for contract B raw water pump station improvements project funded by the Texas Water Development Board Drinking Water State Revolving Fund project number 62897, contingent upon agency approval. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Peak, congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So we received 2 bids for the raw water pump station project. This project will replace pumps and motors, piping, and some major electrical components at the Oak Creek intake, Booster A, and Booster B pump stations. We received a bid from L. Howard Construction for the amount of $1,894,016.18. And the second bid received was from Dowtech Specialty Contractors for the amount of $1,245,208. After review, city staff is recommending the low bid, Dowtech Specialty Contractors, to be awarded. So today we're requesting the approval and award of contract B to Dowtech Specialty Contractors. Any questions?
Any questions for Justin? Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion to award a construction contract to Dowtech.
I move we award the construction contract to Dowtech Specialty Contractors.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion's approved. Now move on to item 6K, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon appointing a new member to the Sweetwater Enterprise for Economic Development Municipal District Board of Directors and to fill the unexpired term of former board member David Bailey. I have several potential candidates in mind and apologize for not having followed up with discussions on each one of them. I am not prepared at this point to make an appointment, but if anyone on the board or on the council has additional thoughts or feelings, please share.
I agree, I'm prepared to pick as well.
Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion to table this appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this item. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This item is tabled. Item 7, city managers, the last report.
Last report, yes, sir. We've got the municipal pool opening day. That's Saturday, March 24th. That coincides with Memorial Day weekend. And look at that pool; looks nice and clean, ready to go for the kids and the families of this community. So thank you, Dana, you and your staff for getting the pool ready for opening weekend. We appreciate it very much. And then we've got the ladder truck. The Sweetwater Fire Department has added a new $2.1 million aerial apparatus, Ladder 1, to its fleet. Built specifically for Sweetwater, this 100-foot mid-mount platform enhances firefighting and rescue capabilities, especially for taller structures. Designed with input from Sweetwater firefighters, this custom truck includes over $200,000 in specialized equipment and is expected to serve the city for 25 years. A formal push-in ceremony will be held May 22nd at 3 p.m. at the fire station. Congratulations, Chief, to you and your staff. I know a lot of hard work went into this, acquiring this apparatus. So it's a time for celebration, and again, congratulations. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, short and sweet. Thank you.
Sir.
Now we'll move on to budget workshop, which is to hear the water utilities presentation, which will be presented by Sage Diller, and budget presentation by David Bailey.
All right, good morning again. We appreciate the opportunity to present this update on the water utility system and the projects. Each year we kind of want to give you an update of the projects that are ongoing, status of the water supply sources, and then projects upcoming. It's always a pleasure working with Justin and his staff to help develop this report, and we will run through it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And we're going to hit on the highlights. It won't take too long, but there's quite a bit of information in here, and we'll just hit the most important parts. Here's the agenda that we're going to run through. Status of supplies, what we're doing to take care of the water that is available and be good stewards of that water. the current projects that are going on, projects coming up, TCQ regulations and compliance, that is always a ever increasing challenge. Seems like there's more regulations coming out all the time, and one issue to that is that they cost more money. There's more testing and more requirements, more training for staff, so that's always adding additional challenge to the water industry. And then obviously there at the end, operator retention and recruitment. You've got to have classified or trained guys that have licenses to do this type of work. Slide we like to look at here, just kind of a status of the lake levels. As you can see there, they're not trending on the upward direction as at this point in time. We are ready to run some water. The rains that we've received have been good. We just haven't been able to replenish the lakes as we had hoped. 23 Oak Creek Lake was at 44%. Last year, 32%, and then now we're around 28%. A little picture here shows the big difference visually from 2019 to 2025. The lake was full in 2019, and it's not full right now. This is the typical trend of the water levels there in Oak Creek Lake. It's usually about a 10-year cycle, something like that. In 2019 it was full. We would like to fill it up before 2029, but if history repeats, that's kind of the general cycle to expect. And we'll get into it more, but one thing to keep in mind is Sweetwater is very well positioned and benefited of having the water well field out west and south of Roscoe. Having a conjunctive use, having two sources of water, surface water and groundwater, is a huge benefit in the area of the state that we live in. Not all communities have that benefit, and Sweetwater is lucky to have that. And I mean, that's all been laid in put into works in years past of prior councils and leadership of developing that well field. Just another picture here of Oak Creek Lake, the intake. It's about 2 foot lower than it was a year ago. So, being good stewards of the water that you have, the city is making every effort possible to reduce the amount of water loss in the system. Repairing leaks, and there's still quite a bit of cast iron line out in the system that has well exceeded its intended service life. It does leak at time to time, and so we're trying to use water development board funds to replace those lines, along with city budgeted funds to replace some water lines and to reduce the amount of water loss that's out into the system. As you can see there, that graph chart on the bottom right is the water loss percentage in the system over the last several years, and you can see it is trending downward. One of the I think key factors of that reduction in water loss has been replacement of the meters that the city did a few years ago. That's kind of the idea. You get water from the lake or the well field. It goes to the water treatment plant. It gets disinfected there, and then the high surface pumps pump it up to the elevated tank, and then that tank provides pressure to all of the water lines and the houses out in the system. In certain situations when you have old leaking lines, some of that water leaks out into the ground before it gets to the house. And then also, if you have old water meters, they don't register the correct amount of water. So your plant says you're putting out 100 gallons, and by the time you add up all of your meters, all your houses, they only add up to, say, 90 gallons. So that's a 10% water loss in your system. As you can see, that trend is moving downward, and right now, I think this year's, Justin, was about 5%? 5% water loss, which is outstanding. I do not typically see that in most cities I deal with. Most times they are 15 to 20%. So the city has done a great job of investing in the system to reduce that water loss and be good stewards of the water that you have. more on protection of water supplies. You know, preventative maintenance is a huge key in a water system. You have pumps and your membranes at your water treatment plant, your wells out in your well fields, keeping those wells treated and producing the way that they're supposed to. That's a big part of the system. And then there was a conjunctive water use study that was done a couple of years ago. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but it looked at your groundwater source and it looked at your surface water source and what is the best combination of use there to try to be, again, good stewards of the water that you have. Recently completed projects. There are, if you remember the big freeze, a lot of water systems across the state of Texas ran out of water, and so there's a big mandate about having to have emergency backup power. And there was a Senate bill that was issued that dictated that all cities have to have that capability. Well, Sweetwater has backup generators for the well field and a large backup generator for the water treatment plant. Also, TCEQ came out and said that every city in Texas had to do a lead service line inventory. We worked with a lot of clients, a lot of cities that we assisted with developing that inventory. Justin and his guys were able to do all that work in-house and did a great job and got it submitted to TCEQ in advance of the deadline. And essentially what that did was it gave the agency an idea of how many lead lines are still remaining out in the system, both lead and galvanized. And there will be funding in the future available for entities to apply for to go out and replace those lead lines. There weren't that many in the city of Sweetwater that were identified in comparison to some other cities. And I know in upcoming funding cycles, it'll be a consideration if you want to use Water Development Board money or if you want to budget for that internally to replace, say 10 or 20 of those service lines a year for a period of time. So you'll have an opportunity to decide if you want to go through Water Development Board, which we love them, but it takes a while. It takes a while, or budget for that internally. So current construction projects, the one that Justin just presented and you awarded is for the upgrades at Oak Creek raw water intake structure, or pump station, also Booster A pump station and Booster B pump station. Those get the raw water from Oak Creek to the surface water treatment plant for treatment. And there, as you can see, the electrical cabinets there in one of the booster stations, it's old, it's antiquated. It's hard to get parts for them, and so this project is going to go in there and update the electrical motors, put VFDs on controls, and update the electrical that it needs. And so that's going to not only help the efficiency of the water operation, but also your electrical usage. Those variable frequency drives, you're going to be able to adjust those electrical motors. They'll be more energy efficient and help with more efficient movement of the water from Oak Creek Lake to the water treatment plant. In addition there, water line replacement has always been the third planned contract of the Water Development Board funds. I will let you know, the plan was to be able to kind of adjust that amount based upon the bids that we use, or the money we use for the water treatment plant membrane replacement, and now the Oak Creek or the booster pump station increases or repairs and upgrades. As we know, electrical cost, construction cost, costs have gone up, and so the bids that we got for those pump station improvements was higher than what we had originally estimated. And so that's going to eat into some of the water line replacement money from the Water Development Board. What we're looking at doing, I've talked to Justin, that there may be some opportunities in that current pump station project to maybe have some cost deductions. We're going to evaluate that and try to save money where we can to maybe add for additional water line replacement. But that'll be a future conversation coming up. Just wanted you to know this whole process with the Water Development Board is time consuming. It takes a lot of time, and construction costs have gone up more than anticipated over the last 2 or 3 years. It just have. Just again, some additional information on the planned improvements. And as mentioned earlier, the contract cost is $1.245 million for the booster pump station improvements. Just for a visual opportunity there, you see bottom of the screen is Oak Creek Reservoir. Booster A is in the middle, and then Booster B is up at the top. And then there's a lot of elevation change as you come from Oak Creek Lake back to Sweetwater. Therefore, you've got to boost that water, and then it gravity feeds down to the water treatment plant. So water line replacement, I mentioned, the amount of available Water Development Board funds is less than what we had originally hoped for. But we are planning to come out with what we call Contract C with the Water Development Board funds. And right now, the identified street is Walnut Street from 4th to 7th. In addition, the city has budgeted for water line replacement in the current budget for work on Arizona and East 12th Street. And so we'll be designing those, and most likely we'll be able to get the city-funded project out faster than we will the Texas Water Development Board, because we have to submit plans and specs to the Water Development Board. They have to review it, and right now we're having some projects take 3, 4, 5 months to get the plans approved. It's a slow process. Also, the city, from what we're hearing from the grant consultant, will likely be funded through the CDBG program in 2026. And so I think that's supposed to, the award letters are supposed to go out in early, like January, February of 2026. I did see an email just the other day that I think because of some of the funding changes in the federal government, that program is not 100% certain that it will be fully funded. So we'll have to wait and see how all that fleshes out. But as of right now, it does sound like the C will be funded, and I think that's around $750,000 grant money in early 2026. Back on the AMI water meters, that's been a really good improvement for the city to reduce the water loss. Like we said, the water loss over time has trended downward with water line replacement and with these meter replacements, and this year the reports indicate the water loss percentage is around 5%, which is excellent. That's the graph again showing the water loss reduction over time. So one future project that is kind of out there on the horizon, the city may want to be looking at in the future. Like I said, you have two water sources. You've got the groundwater well field, and then you have your surface water source, which is Oak Creek Lake. Well, that transmission line was installed in the 1950s. It's concrete bar wrap pipe, and it's been having some issues, leaks on that line, and it's hard for the staff to repair those. Usually, you have to hire contractors to come in that are kind of specialized in that type of work. There's some areas that are deep excavation. It's not easy to replace. And so it's something that we might want to be looking at, finding a way to fund that in the future. Because again, any source of water is a good source of water these days in Texas. And so we want to make sure that we're able to maintain that source of supply out of Oak Creek Lake. One option we've talked about is potentially slip lining that existing transmission line. Instead of taking it out or laying a new line adjacent to it, we might be able to slip a liner inside of that pipe for a lower cost and reduce the leaks that are on that line that are occurring now. And that would be a good long-term solution. That's just something we'll have to look at and see if that's possible and what the cost would be, and what a good way to fund that would be. Obviously, you know, you always could fund it internally, but the Water Development Board is a good candidate as well. There's just, you know, some time that goes along with that. This is a future project, but it's not too far in the future. One of the crossings there of the railroad track, they began leaking, and so the city staff has that crossing now valved off so that it's not leaking. We are out for bid currently for to get bids to come in and bore underneath the railroad track to replace that line. We tried multiple things with the railroad company. We tried to slip line that pipe. We tried to just bore a new HDPE line, slick bore it. They would not allow any of that. They control their right-of-way very, very closely. They were making us jack and bore a steel casing underneath the railroad track, and then we will slide a HDPE pipe through that. A lot of challenges that go along with that. Anytime you're working in their right-of-way, they make you hire a third-party safety and inspection team called Rail Pros. We've got all that factored into the bid, but that will be coming up most likely at the next council meeting, looking and considering those bids. Always, you know, water line replacement is just anytime there's funds available, the city should be looking at replacing water lines throughout the town till we finally get rid of all the old cast iron lines. There have been a few TCEQ inspections over the last several years of Lake Trammell Dam and Lake Sweetwater Dam. At the concrete spillways, there have been some identified repairs needed. The concrete is cracked, and there's been some spalled areas that need to be addressed. I know Justin has been trying to work with some contractors to get some proposals and see what it would take to get those addressed. And so that's something that's going to be upcoming in the near future that will need to be on the radar and addressed before, you know, TCEQ keeps noting it, and at some point, you know, they're gonna make the city get those addressed, and two, it'll be good to go ahead and get it done before the repairs or before the issues become too bad to where they're significant enough to cause additional cost and even have to replace some of that concrete spillway. A few more photos there shown. There are some potential grant funds out there. They usually require a high percentage of match, and they're competitive. They're kind of hard to get. I don't think at this time the repairs are highly significant. I mean, I think we're talking about crack sealing and concrete spall repair. You know, I think we estimated $50,000 to $75,000 per spillway is what we're kind of estimating right now. We'd like to get actual contractors out there to give some closer or some more accurate proposals, but that's in our minds kind of where we're thinking that number is. So it's not, at this point in time, it's not crazy numbers, but they will need to be addressed in the near future. Another project, and Justin kind of brought this to the table to discuss, kind of changing some of the utilization of the Luke 549 tank. It would require some pump upgrades, but one thing it will do is get more storage volume of treated water over on that east side of the system. Some of the large industrial users the city has, you know, they're always looking for water, and you want to keep them supplied. If there's a issue with some of the pumps or anything else in the system where you can't get water to that east side, this would be a source there's already treated water stored over there that could keep those customers in service, and any other future growth demands over on that east side. This would be another resource. So that's something that to be considering for a future water project. On the wastewater side, there is a Water Development Board project. There's funding already in place. The plans are being reviewed by Texas Water Development Board right now. And as soon as those approvals are given, then we will come to the council for, to go out for bid and advertise project. The first project is for collection system replacement. There's a creek crossing there at Neff and Lewis that is exposed. We are going to reroute that out of the creek. It's kind of a concern there, you know, if any type of big flooding event occurred, it could damage that pipe and we'd have a spill, so we don't want that. We're looking at rerouting it, and there's also a section there along Crane Street from 12th to 5th that will be included in that project. And then also another contract funded by the Water Development Board are upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. As you can see there, there's several equipment upgrades and replacement of equipment that's just outdated and needs to be replaced. So lead and copper and water quality parameter sampling. TCEQ is, and it kind of goes back to that lead service line inventory. They are requiring systems to test for lead and copper much more frequent than they had in the past. And the importance of of this item is that it's going to cost more money. Every time you take samples, you send them to a lab to get analyzed, it just costs more money. And I think Justin, aren't you saying years past it's been around $2,000, and now we're looking at, with the increased sampling frequency, we're probably going to be around $10,000 a year, something like that. But that's, you know, 5 times the amount of sampling cost than prior years. Additional sampling, this UCMR 5, it's kind of mandated for identification of PFAS chemicals, the lithium in the water. So there's a requirement for systems to increase that level of sampling. And again, that's going to increase cost as well. I mentioned on the conjunctive water use study, this was a study that was completed a couple years ago, and it's you know, always a discussion on the best balance of your surface water and your groundwater. Should we be taking more surface or more groundwater, or what combination, what percentage? You know, and another thing to factor in there is your surface water treatment plant doesn't run 24 hours a day. It runs when it's staffed, or you have operators there to check in on it. And so you've got to maximize that amount of time that you have. And so right now, I believe, Justin, you're running around 60% surface and 40% groundwater. Isn't that correct? So that conjunctive water use study was looking at the long-term viability of the groundwater field. And you don't want to be using all of that. You want to utilize your surface water while you have it. And knowing that it will go through cycles, you have evaporation, but while you have it, you want to be using it, and you want to be banking water in your groundwater field. So that's what the study came out, or evaluated, and the recommendations made, and the system, or Justin and staff made some adjustments at the water treatment plant, and that's the operation as of now. Now there are times where on your raw water side, you know, we have issues with a leak in the Oak Creek water line. Well, that shuts down that system. Now we got to rely solely on the well field. Or if a pump goes down at one of the booster stations, that's why we're implementing that project to kind of beef up that surface water side at those booster pump stations, and like we mentioned, trying to go in and you know, reestablish the reliance of the Oak Creek raw water line with a future project, so that we don't have those down period times, so that we always can rely on that surface water source and continue to bank water in the groundwater, the well field. So that's the outcome of the study, and the staff has been implementing that going forward. There's been discussions about extending or trying to expand that well field. That was one of the recommendations out of the conjunctive water use study, is that that well field has been very beneficial to the city system. If you have opportunity to expand it, it needs to be evaluated. We've actually submitted some Water Development Board applications for funding to do that. there's cost to purchase the land, develop new wells. There's going to have to be some infrastructure over to tie into the existing infrastructure. But that's one of the identified improvements. And ideally, the best use of that investment is if there were ag wells, irrigation wells that you were able to buy, convert those over to municipal, then that would further extend the life and the production of that well-filled aquifer. So anyway, that's one of the projects that's looked for long-term and is under consideration, and we're applying for funding for that. With the additional sampling, increasing costs, now you're also looking at treatment. Chemicals have gone up significantly over the last several years. You're looking from 50 to 200%. Also pumps and motors. We all know, we're seeing it every day in our own lives. Everything is going up. Anything that is related to electrical, construction-wise, has gone up astronomically over the last couple of years. We're kind of curious to see what it's going to look like over the next year with some of the tariff talks and all that going on. We don't anticipate costs going down, so we have to budget accordingly, knowing that construction costs will likely continue to go up. So one of our licensed operator, Dave Baker, has worked with Justin and his staff to come up with, what does it cost, what does it truly cost to produce 1,000 gallons of water? And you're looking at everything from electric costs, chemical costs, staff time, everything factored in. And as you can see, that trend is slowly going upward over the last 5 years. It continues to slowly increase in cost. So that's something to be considering when you're looking at the budget. Same thing goes on the wastewater treatment plant side. There was a little bit of an outlier there in 23. There were some additional costs that the system had to incur, but the trend, resulting trend is still upward over the last several years. So the Water Development Board, I mentioned this, they are still one of the best or the best funding source out there, whether it be a percentage of grant or a discounted interest rate. Usually their interest rates are 1% or more below market, and it's usually a 20 or 30-year payback note. So they're still one of the best options. They have too many projects and not enough people, and it's taking longer. So that's one thing as we're doing our applications, we try to factor in increasing cost, knowing the timeline that the Water Development Board is going to take. And so we have some cost escalations built into those applications. Now, I will say that the last couple of years we didn't have enough built in because, as we've all seen with inflation, typical construction cost increases 2.5% to 3%, 4% per year. I mean, it has been 5, 6, 7% over the last couple of years. So that was something that we did not anticipate. I don't know what it's going to be like going forward in the future, but we try to factor in some of that buffer into those applications, knowing that usually it's a 2, 3, 4 year turnaround before the construction is complete. So operator training, there's becoming fewer and fewer licensed operators out there that are available. There's several clients we deal with that, they just cannot fill those roles. So investing in your guys and your staff, that's always a key. Keeping them trained and licensed. Shown there the required training. It's 2 to 3 years for a C license, 3 to 5 for a B license, and you're always going to need at least one B operator at the water treatment plant. And if possible, 2 is better. Some challenges or some incentives that some of the cities are offering out there helps to keep those guys around and be the best that they can be for your water system. Also, certification bonuses and merit raises, and you guys are well informed of that. It's just something that I know that some of the cities out there we work with are doing to keep their guys fully trained and best operators that they can be. That's all that I have. Are there any questions for me?
Favorite question I get from people out there, and I doubt anything's changed, but We still generating like 1 million gallons a day of effluent that we just send out into the wilderness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
And I'm wondering if we're at a point where it may be time to look at doing something about that with USG and GP ramping up and.
Right. So you do have some contracts for land application where you are obligated to supply some of that effluent water for ag use, but then there is some leftover effluent water that is available. There have been some studies in the past at looking at trying to water ball fields or add, into some of the ponds or anything, but the wastewater treatment plant is so far out there that infrastructure cost to get it back is significant. Now, industrial use, that is a possibility, depending upon the quality of water that they're looking for. Sometimes industrial users need a higher level of treatment than what the wastewater plant currently produces. So there would have to be some upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant, which some industrial users would be willing to pay for that. And so if any of those users want to come have that discussion, we definitely, I know the city would be willing to have those discussions and look at what that agreement would look like, and balance all those factors with your downstream effluent contracts and then the quality of water that they need and how that all, kind of works best for all parties involved.
That's better than what I thought. I think going back into towns, that's never been, to me, realistic.
It's just a long ways. It's a long ways. But if you could find, industrial users to help, pay for that water has value to it. If they'll help pay for that or pay the city for that to be another revenue source that will help pay for other infrastructure. So something to consider for sure. All right, again, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
City manager's portion.
All right, we're ready to go on the budget workshop for this fiscal year and fiscal year 26. Like we always do, we like to lead with the mission statement and the value statement. I think it's very important. In my time here, I think we've done a really good job of trying to hammer home this mission statement into the organization and into the community. We lead with trust and respect to provide a vibrant, secure community for all, and the corresponding values that go with that mission statement are professionalism, integrity, continuous improvement, and teamwork. So what we'll talk about, we'll kind of start off at the 30,000 foot level with all the funds. We'll hone in on the general fund and the water utilities fund. We'll talk about other items of interest. We'll go over the budget calendar starting with today's budget workshop, and then we'll open the floor to any questions that anybody has. Okay. We need a budget, a new clicker. All right. Fiscal year 25 revenues for all funds. This is every dollar that we have in the city of Sweetwater. Taxes are about $10 million coming in. Permits and licenses are a little over $200,000. Charges for services are very significant at about $17 million. And you'll see other financial sources at about a little over $8 million for a total of about 43.7. Again, these are all funds, and these are budgeted. These are not actuals yet. For fiscal year 25, these are the expenditures. Personnel services, of course, are going to be very significant at about $15 million. You got contractual services. These are expenditures again at about $15 million. A total of about $51 million on fiscal year expenditures. again, on all funds. We'll hone in a little bit on the general fund. This is the, you see that 50.68 number at the top. That is our current tax rate. And this is what you get for the tax rate that you pay. 24-hour police protection, municipal court, code enforcement, sidewalks, animal services, streets, signs and signals, the golf course, aquatics, which we took a look at earlier in the meeting, parks, library, our health unit, children's advocacy center, municipal auditorium. So you get a lot for what you pay, and we'll put that 50.68 cent tax rate in perspective a little later on in the program. The general fund revenue side, again, these are budgeted numbers. These are revenues. Taxes are going to be, the biggest number on there as far as general fund revenues go, at about $8.8 million. Charges for services are very significant, also at about 2.3. Total fiscal year budgeted general fund revenues about $14.5 million. And then you see that on this pie chart, the largest piece of that pie chart at 61% of general fund revenues are going to be the taxes, and that's the same with any city's general fund. On the revenue side, you're going to see the charges for services are about 16% of our general fund revenues as well, and transfers in are about 9%, miscellaneous about 11%. The sales tax revenue for fiscal years 20 through 25, starting at the top with 2020, you've seen that over the years we've kind of had pretty significant increases to our sales tax revenues coming in. We had a big uptick in 2024 at about $4.4 million that we got in last year. It seems that we're not going to quite hit that number this year. We're looking at about $3.9 million. That green portion is the estimated remaining months of this fiscal year. So it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. That remains to be seen, but we're kind of looking at about $3.9 million, and you see that in this table here. The months of June through September, the end of this fiscal year, are estimated. We're looking to get in about $325,000 in each of the remaining months of the year. In our estimate for the rest of the fiscal year total is about 3.9, and that kind of contrasts with about 4.4 or so that we got in last fiscal year. Our property tax rates, I mentioned that we're about 51 cents or so. And when people say that our property tax rates are high, you can kind of go back and show them this table. These are 16 peer cities that we compare ourselves to in the region and around Texas. And on this table, we're the second lowest of the 16 peer cities. We don't want to be Breckenridge, which is over $1, on their tax rate. That's very, very high. There are two cities on this table that you see that are in their 50s. That's Levelland and Sweetwater. Snyder's kind of an outlier. They're in the high 30s. But the rest of the cities are in the 60s and 70s. That's kind of the average of these 16 peer cities. But we're very, very below the average at about 51 cents, in the low 50s, which I think is good because we're able to do all of those things that I mentioned before: police protection, fire protection, and the general fund, while maintaining a low tax rate. And that's where you want to be as a municipality. So the average rate you see on the right is about 66 cents per $100 of valuation, and we're very much below that. So the preliminary appraisal roll as of the end of April, you see the total market value in 24 was about $872 million. The tax rate, or the tax year 25 preliminary appraisal roll or total market value is about $932 million. That's market value. The appraised value total last year was about 669 million. This year is looking at about 716. So you take out the exemptions, and the net taxable value for tax year 2025 is about $705 million, which is an increase of about 46.5 million over last year. If you look at the tax rate that we have currently and apply that tax rate to next year, you're looking at a tax levy, keeping the same tax rate of about $3.5 million, $3.6 million, which is an increase over last year's levy of about $235,000. So you're keeping it about the same, really. There's not going to be a whole lot of change. Of course, these numbers are going to change because they're preliminary numbers, so we'll get the final totals sometime this summer. And then the property tax breakdown in the city limits, you know, Sweetwater ISD is and the school districts are always the highest, you know, taxing entities, no matter what community you're in. The city of Sweetwater is next. Nolan County and the hospital district are tied, I guess you could call it, with 18.1% of the total tax breakdown. And then the groundwater conservation district is a tiny little sliver in that pie chart. The revenue summary, the next sales tax allocation report is due to the city on June 14th, so we'll get a little better picture of how the fiscal year is going to end up. We'll continue to monitor the impacts of the sales tax revenue, and we need to shop Sweetwater. We need to quit going to Abilene and all these other cities, Odessa, and you know, all those cities down to the west. We need to support our local businesses, and the certified tax roll due to the entities by the middle of the summer, July 25th. The effective and the rollback rates will be calculated by the same date. And then fiscal year 25 general fund expenditures. We're going from revenues to expenditures. General government is about $2 million. Public safety in any city, no matter where you are in the country, public safety is going to be the biggest general fund expenditure that you're going to see. It's about $11 million. And then you see the other, you know, the rest of the breakdown. Public Works is about 1.5, Culture and Recreation about the same, for a total of about $16.5 million. And these are expenditures. And you see that on the pie chart, about 2/3 of general fund expenditures are public safety, about $11 million, general government about $2 million, 11%. Like I mentioned before, 1.5 Culture and Recreation, 1.5 Public Works, so about 9% each. But the vast majority, as you see, is public safety. That's fire, and that's police. And the certificates of obligation on the general fund side, the fire ladder truck, we issued COs in October of 2023, and just got the fire ladder truck, you know, very, very recently. That those COs mature in August of 2035, so still a ways to go on that. The amount of the issue was about $2.1 million. And the bond principal still payable as of September of 25 is about $1.9 million. And then these are proposed COs that could be coming up later on with council approval in the general fund and ambulance, looking maybe to issue that in August of this year, which would mature just 5 years later. The amount of the issue would be $425,000. At about $99,125. A fire engine, a little more expensive, date of issue, same date, August of 25, matures a little later, 10 years later than the ambulance in August of 2040. The amount of issuance is about $1.6 million, and the bond principal payable at about $146,000. So this table kind of shows the possible tax rate impact of a CO tax note. And so the taxable assessed value of property in Sweetwater by year is to the very left, beginning in 2026 of $654 million. The CO series 2023, which is the ladder truck, that's $218,000. That goes all the way down to 2035. That's that third column. And then $2 million in COs. Those are the two middle columns. The 1.6 for the fire engine and the $425,000 for the ambulance. And those are the payments all the way down, starting in 2026 for the fire engine to 2040. And then for the ambulance, it's a 5-year obligation starting in 2026 and maturing in 2030. And then you see the total debt service for the ladder truck, the engine, and the ambulance. And then the last column on the right is how it affects the tax rate, the required interest and sinking rate. So it starts off at 0.0657 and then matures in 2040 at 0.0188 cents. So I know that's a lot of information on that. If you need further explanation, we can meet with Kirsta or go over that, any of that with you. But that's kind of how it looks as far as the current ladder truck, what we owe on that, and what we would potentially owe on a fire engine and an ambulance if the council so chose to fund those with COs. And then these are expenditure summaries. These are unanticipated expenses that came up in fiscal year 25. A police fence with electric gate, and these aren't very, I would say, very expensive, but these are items that came up that we felt we had to fund that were outside of the budget this fiscal year. Fire security system at about $23,000, a code enforcement zone update at 50, airport personnel at 25, insurance increase at 140, that's fairly significant. All those totaled up to about $321,000. In citywide fiscal year 25 budget requests, these are coming up for, is that 26, Kirsta?
26, yes, sir.
I'm sorry about that. Fiscal year 26 budget requests. Fire meet and confer requests, these are contractual items that the fire department is asking for their meet and confer contract that hasn't been agreed to yet. We're still meeting with them to kind of go over that, but they're asking for about $237,800 worth of requests. A lot of that is in salaries. Merit-based pay for all non-civil service employees to average about 4%, totals about $380,000. Increase in city's insurance cost at about 90, code enforcement increase for citywide cleanups, about $50,000. Police emergency radio communication systems, about $138,000. Fire new pumper engine, 1.6. We got fire requesting 2 additional employees at 225, airport improvements at 188. Now keep in mind, all these aren't going to be approved. These are just the requests that have come in from the staff as far as fiscal year 26 requests. Fire battalion chief vehicle at about 105. On the water side, source and supply, Texas Water Development Board, Oak Creek water lines at about $1.3 million. Purification plant equipment, $170,000. Water distribution improvements, 2.1. Wastewater collection improvements, $275,000. Wastewater treatment improvements, about $2 million. Parks pickup and dump truck, about $300,000. So the total estimated cost between the general fund and the water fund and other funds of about $15.5 million. And like I said previously, these aren't going to all be approved. There's just no way we can afford them, but we do ask the directors to give us their wish list, and then we go over them one by one and see what we can do and what we need to put on the list for future years to bring to the council as part of the budget for 26, and see what we can afford to approve this year and what we can afford to approve maybe in outlying years. And the current fund balance in the general fund, you look at the 25% of prior year expenditures, $3.6 million. The amount above the 25% year-to-date policy is $3.3 million, so that's a pretty healthy amount there. On the water and sewer fund, 3% of revenues is $168,000, and unrestricted funds and savings, close to $10 million. So that's, we're in good shape there. EMS is a little bit of a different story. The ending fund balance year to date is about $4.8 million under, and refuse we're in pretty decent shape there at about $310,659. And we'll get a little more in detail on some of these other funds as we go through the presentation. Budget issues in the general fund, of course, the impact of sales tax, that makes up a big part of our general fund revenue. We need to review the general fund balance, review the property tax rate. We don't have a specific recommendation on where to set that tax rate at this point. We'll have something further once we move along in the budget process. For purposes of this presentation, we kept it the same as last year, but we may want to look to increase it or keep it the same. It just kind of depends on what your interim city manager and the staff want to do moving forward. Extensive review of all rates, fees, and fines. We do that yearly and bring changes or proposed changes to the council on a yearly basis. Continue to look for efficiencies with limited impact on services. I think that's very important. Funding solutions for future capital projects, especially streets. I think that's something, in my opinion, the council really needs to take a look at. We haven't had a really comprehensive street maintenance program beyond seal coating. I think in the city's history, we haven't gone in there and done really comprehensive rehabilitation, I think, in the city's history. And so I would urge the council to kind of take a really hard look at that as you move forward. And the rising cost of equipment and supplies, Sage mentioned that in his excellent presentation. Everything's going up, not only on the water side, but kind of in our general fund maintenance and operation side as well. On the water utility side, we've got revenues in the water and wastewater fund of about $18 million, expenses of about 23, unreserved of 27.1, and reserved of about $2.25 million. Revenues and other financing sources on the water side, charges for services of about 9.3, other financial sources of 8, total of about 18.2. Our top 10 water consumers for fiscal year ending 24, Georgia Pacific and USG. No surprise that they're top 2 water consumers. Cities of Brant, Roby, and Trent round out the top 5. Then, of course, the Housing Authority, the ISD, the hospital, Mighty Wash, and TSTC to round out the top 10. Comparison of water rates to average peer population for cities our size, 10,000 to 15,000. This is part of the 2024 TML rate survey. That N number 14 is the number of cities that participated in the survey. 5,000 gallon use on the residential side. The peer average, the 14 city average is $42.22. We're at $47.26 here in Sweetwater, so we're 12% over the peer average. For 50,000 gallons of commercial use, the peer average is $423.02. We're at $444.95, so we're just a little bit over the peer average at 5%, by 5%. On the wastewater side, same peer group that was studied. Our peer average for 5,000 gallon of residential sewer is $40.15. We're a little higher than that at $47.26, which is 18% over the peer group average. 50,000 gallon sewer commercial, the peer group is, the average of that is $310.55. We're $236.47. We're 31% under the peer group average on 50,000 gallon commercial wastewater. So water and wastewater fund expenditures, we were talking about revenues before, now we're talking about expenses. Source of supply, the water that we purchase, about $7.5 million. That's by far the largest. We've got to have the water to treat it, right, and to distribute it into the system to ultimately to our consumers. So that's the biggest source of expenditure. Water distribution at about $3.8 million, wastewater treatment at about 3.7. So total water and wastewater fund expenditures of about $22.9 million, let's call it. And proprietary fund certificates of obligation, these are projects that have been ongoing on the wastewater side, water and wastewater side, well field development, water distribution, water treatment, well field development, elevated storage tank and system improvements. That project got going in 2016, right about the time that I got here. It matures in 2036. The amount of issue is $5 million, and the bond principal payable is about 2.8. Water system improvements, the date of issuance on that, you can see was 2021. It matures 20 years later in 41. The amount of issue is about 2.2, and the bond principal payable on that is about 1.7. And then you see, the other projects that were undertaken. The amount of issue for total is about $20 million, and the bond principal payable as of September of 2025 is about $7.4 million. So we're doing a lot on the water side, as you can tell. A lot of projects, a lot of important projects, spending a lot of money, but that's a good thing, because water is life, and you've got to spend a lot of money on the water side to make sure that the distribution system, that the systems in place are viable and doing good. So other items of interest: EMS comparison of audited figures, fiscal year ended 20 through 2025, which are 2025 are budgeted amounts. See a lot of red on here. I understand that's concerning, but other cities that run their own EMS services are in similar boats, and that's not an excuse. That's just a fact. It costs a lot to run an EMS service. A lot of I think insurance pays, Medicare, Medicaid pays, but it's tough to get the private pays to pay, and that's what it comes down to. But we don't. Somebody calls 911, we respond, and whether they end up paying or not, we continue to respond. And so, we're kind of in a tough situation there. We can't deny service to somebody or anything like that. They pick up the phone, they call, we respond. You notice our fund balances at that bottom row. A lot of red there, a lot of high numbers in the red, and it's tough. So we've got to figure something out. I think getting with Tad and Kirsta, and maybe bringing somebody in from the outside to try to help evaluate some of the financials on this end might not be a bad idea going forward. I wish I had some more answers for you at this point, but it's going to take some digging and some outside the box thinking to try to get us to a better place. I don't think we're ever good. EMS isn't meant to be a moneymaker for a city, but to lose, you're just going to kind of want to not lose as much money and get as close to zero losses as you can. I think is where you want to end up. But it's never going to be a moneymaker for any city. You're in EMS not to make money, but to provide a service, and that's what it's going to have to be. Employee benefit fund, fiscal year's ended. We're doing pretty well there. You got some ups and downs, as with any employee benefit fund, but we're not doing so bad there. It's like I said, it's always going to be, you can have your ups and downs, but I think we're on an upward trend, which is a good thing. Hotel motel tax, you see 20 and 21 kind of went down. Those are the COVID years, but then shot back up in 22 and 23. We're kind of on a little bit of a downward trend, but we're hoping that picks up. You can see that it's up and down, like other funds have been. But Karen, you guys are doing a good job. Keep it up. We're hoping for an upward trend here as we head into 25 and 26, 27. Now, to talk about the budget calendar, today's the budget workshop on May 13th. We've got like I mentioned earlier, on July 25th, the appraiser certifies the tax rolls and calculates the effective and the rollback rates. We've got the notice of the public hearing on the budget in the newspaper on August 8th, the notice of the property tax rates and dates of the public hearings. August 12th is the proposed budget presented to the council. And then setting the public hearing for September 16th. On September 16th, you've got the public hearing on the proposed budget and the tax rate. You read and adopt the appropriation ordinance, the rate schedule, the budget ordinance, the ordinance to amend the current fiscal year 24, or the fiscal year 24 budget. And then October 1st is your first day of fiscal year 26. And so let's open the floor to any questions the council might have. Staff is here to help answer those if you have any. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Now move on to item 9, which is to enter into closed session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Consultation with attorney, closed meeting. The city will meet in closed session to consult with its attorney on the matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, to wit, the legal position of the city with regard to personnel matters and consultation with attorney. Entertain a motion to enter closed session.
Move we enter closed session.